Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. As La République du Cameroon rolls out its latest electoral charade, we see a predictable frenzy grips its political theater. Billboards rise, slogans echo, and candidates roam the world begging for validation, all under the guise of democratic renewal. But beneath the choreography lies a desperate attempt to distract, to dilute the pain, and to blur the reserve of a people long discarded. The people of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. While French Cameroon celebrates its illusion of choice, Ambazonia bleeds. Its sons are abducted, its mothers tortured, even babies jailed without charge, all because they are related, even by blood, to freedom fighters. And yet, some Amazonian-born figures, once seen as torch-bearers, now dance in the shadows of the same system that massacres their people. Their presence in this electoral parade is not neutral. To many, it feels like betrayal wrapped in ambition. In this fog of manipulation, the people of Ambazonia refuse to be pawns. They reject the idea that their fate should be determined in a foreign capital or by ballot boxes soaked in blood. They remember their history. They know their struggle. And tonight, they respond not with riots, not with slogans, but with a lockdown that echoes from Ngwaketunja to Bui, from Donga Matun County to Mezam, a shutdown of complicity, a stand for the truth. So, as La République parades its democracy to the world, Ambazonians ask what kind of election builds a nation while holding its neighboring hostage in their own homeland. What kind of nation really does that? Well, let's take you now to the heart of the resistance, where the streets are silent, not out of fear, but out of conviction, where lockdown isn't a punishment, but a protest. All coming up right after we get the prime headlines. And these are the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. Lockdown solidarity holds as colonial forces deploy misinformation. Amazonian communities stand firm. From SONARA's ashes at Kribi to Mirage. Another election, another refinery scam as Ambazonians oil feeds the colonial empire. Cameroon's presidential race or political circus, 81 candidacies and still no real contest. Akere has returned, a warm welcome in Yaoundé, but a cold reminder in Ambazonia. News across Africa, we see tragedy strikes Dakar, military jet crash at Milestone School, killing 27, dozens injured. And on the news across the globe, French cities enforce youth curfew amid surge in drug-linked violence. With that, let's get into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. What's my business?
What about now?
Well, reports from Ngoketunja, Yudonga, Matunga, Mezam counties in southern Cameroon, where family members of Ambazonian State Army General Novadai were recently abducted. In solidarity, residents imposed an indefinite lockdown to press for their release. The Ambazonian State Army imposed this indefinite lockdown to press for the release of these innocent abducted civilians. I don't blame any of this. So from Ngoketunja, Yudonga, Matunga, Mezam counties in southern Cameroon, where family members of Ambazonian State Army General Novadai were recently abducted. In solidarity, residents imposed an indefinite lockdown to press for their release. Despite circulating claims of cancellation, local authorities are insisting that the lockdown remains firmly in place. The so-called cancellation was spread by individuals impersonating General Novadai, likely agents of La Republique du Cameroon, through social media, falsely informing residents that life could return to normal. Yet the Ambazonian State Army and its communication offices in the affected counties have dismissed this as a deliberate trap, warning that any civilian movement outside the agreed windows risk being ambushed by colonial forces aiming to blame the Ambazonian fighters. A senior official of the Ambazonian State Army later clarified the actual guidelines. Roads will only open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for essential transit. From Monday to Thursday, the lockdown remains fully in effect. Authorities stress that this is not a change in policy, but a tactical adjustment to prevent suffering among civilians, not a capitulation to colonial pressure. Now, an urgent public safety message was released today stating a La Republique du Cameroon fake agent claiming to be General Novadai has made a false announcement that the indefinite lockdown has been lifted so that the people of Ambazonia can go about their daily activity, which is a big trap. No southern Cameroon is free from the barbaric government of neighboring French Cameroon until homeland is fully restored. Now, here's an audio from an Ambazonian State Army general.
Greetings, fellow Ambazonia. Royal greetings to all the great people of Ambazonia. I will begin my greetings to all our great heroes of our time, not leaving out all the general populations where they stand for the freedom of Ambazonia. We come today, like the 22nd of July, in the year of our Lord, 2025, for debunk this fake audio where they come out from one criminal of the Republic of Cameroon, where they don't denounce, say, ghost town, it don't stop, and road, it don't be open. I want to know very well our dear civilian population. Today, this date, like the 22nd of July, and this criminal, he made this audio, is now on the 23rd of July, because they are already fake. They are fake. These are people where they be sponsored by this SDO, this criminal SDO, where they call it Gongong Henneken or Gongong Hadison or whatsoever they call him. I don't care to know how they call him. But let this my message reach to all our general population. Don't be a victim of any circumstances. Because this criminal them, they want to say on an open road, when they come in, made a poor bullet on your body so as to kill our own people we are fighting for. All the generals of Gokutunja, they be united. The generals of Gokutunja as whole, Gokutunja County, they be united. If they're the one of lead anything like Ghost Town, they will begin to give an official announcement. We will come out from the communication department of Gokutunja, will be led by Major General Oneburu. Make anybody not try to take the road from Dr. Bamenda anywhere. You will be caught. And when they kill you, don't blame us. Because this criminal, this Gongong Henneken, he don't want peace in Gokutunja. He want nothing but to destroy the whole of Gokutunja. But we shall face him squarely. Make all the general population, make them remain indoor. If we want to lead a ghost town, official announcement will come out. With the date we will be, it will come out. We will tell you. They don't pay this other fool. We don't even get to know him. I don't want to give credit by calling the idiot's name, because we don't even need to know them. But all our civilians remain safe. Let's mourn our 2 months old baby and a 3 months old baby in prison. Remember, if you were the one, you grow up and tell you, say you will be in prison when you will be 2 months old. How you react? This government don't mean anything good for us. This criminal government, they don't mean anything good for us. They are not the object and begin to point the shadow. You force people to love you people. They want to force people to follow them. You can never force a horse to drink water. You can force the horse to the stream, but you can never drink water. I want to come in clear again. They can kill the sword, but they can never kill the spirit of independence in any of the Amazonia. Be it a fighter or be it a civilian. Remain home and be safe. Be safe. Long live Amazonia. Our victory is sure. Thank you. Call me master.
Well, the message further emphasized that any lifting of the lockdown would only be declared officially through verified channels, such as the Ambazonian State Army's county communication offices, recognized activists, or ABC Amba TV. The call is unequivocal. Safety first. Civilians are warned to disregard rumors and follow only official orders. They are told to remain in solidarity until the abducted families members are released, a demand grounded in both justice and principle. Well, tonight again, we have with us Barrister Mbeseha in the studios, who's going to help us dissect every aspect of today's Undaunted. Good evening, Barrister.
Good evening to you all.
So, Barrister Mbeseha, we see, given the recent spread of misinformation by fake colonial agents and the ambiguous wording about limited road openings, how can Ambazonian communities ensure that they are receiving accurate directives, and what measures should the Ambazonian State Army take to prevent civilian casualties and maintain trust during this very sensitive lockdown, scene that while showing solidarity for the innocent families, it also is not an easy task dealing with indefinite lockdowns? How do you think they can go about this?
Well, it is as simple as good morning. They should not even have had any problem at all. If those people who live there, because this is specific, were just normal human beings. They say, why is the lockdown? They have captured mothers with babies and locked them up. They are locked up physically. Everybody can see them being locked up. Everybody sees them absent from home. And so, impersonating to say that the lockdown is over is just being stupid. Because the lockdown is there because the people are locked up, they're not being released. But the most important thing to me is, why are even people trying to move up and down? What situation in the world will cause you and me to join in sympathy? The idea of locking up babies, I think, should annoy every human being, such that you should be able to take your own action to show your own degree of anger. And so while that baby or those babies and their mothers are in jail, you are struggling to run up and down, maybe to go and do business, maybe to go visit your husband or your wife. Well, it is them today, will be you tomorrow. So as I've said, it should not pose any problem. Because I think, even without calling the lockdown officially, the people should say, no, this is just too much. And that would just be, that's the law that should be enforced by itself. Whereas the spokesperson said there, if you don't want to respect it, and you lose your life, you blame nobody. Because locking up a baby is a reaction to such a criminal act that might cost you your life or injure you or some type of serious bodily harm. It's justified. It's justified because to the best of our knowledge, if the information is true, the women who are locked up, their mothers and their babies, they were in Dub. They have since been moved even to Bamenda, showing that they are not, the chances that they are going to be released are so far away. And so everybody in that community should ought to be revolted, should ought to be angry, and say, no, again, enough is enough. What else can be more annoying? What else can be more revolting than locking up babies, a few months old? They have killed people, that's not enough. Babies have to go to prison for being relations to those who are fighting to free themselves, for having any link to do with them. We say that is not human. No human society, civilized human society, behaves that way. And so that duo, who is supposed to be the personal representative of the president, they believe in jungle justice. And because they do jungle justice, our own boys have said, an eye for an eye, it is possible. And so nobody should even risk trying to defy the ghost town, because that act alone is enough to annoy you. And so I think the information is clear. Our ASAs and sympathizers, this is not left to them alone. If I were there and I sat in my house and I saw you trying to violate that thing, and I had a spear and my rubber gun, I would shoot you. So this enforcement should not be left to those guys alone, because this is too much. This is just too much. Over to you.
Much Barrister Mbeseha. We see that in another development, in a move that many are already calling an electoral charade, the regime in Yaoundé, La République, has launched yet another refinery project, and this time in Kribi, raising questions not only about its timing, but about the deeper strategy behind it. On July 17, 2025, Cameroon's National Hydrocarbons Corporation, SNH, SONARA, through its subsidiary Tradex and the Ariana RCG Consortium, officially commenced the Sea Star Refinery project, a 30,000 barrels per day modular refinery to be constructed on 250 hectares in Lolabe, Kribi, in La République. The project, valued at 115 billion francs CFAs, is slated for completion in 18 months, conveniently aligned with the next presidential elections in La République du Cameroon. But then for the people of Ambazonia, this is more than just a political stunt. It is the continuation of a long-standing colonial ploy, extracting from Ambazonia, enriching La République, and silencing the very people who bleed for the nation's economy to function. Few symbols illustrate this injustice more clearly than the story of SONARA, The once proud national refinery situated in Libe, Fako County, established in the 1970s and built on Ambazonian soil, SONARA operated for decades using crude extracted primarily from Indian County, one of the richest oil basins in West Africa. Yet, despite being the engine room of Cameroon's oil refining capacity, SONARA never truly served the interests of Ambazonians. It stood tall and productive, but then the benefits of its existence flowed away from its host communities and into the hands of French Cameroon elites. That illusion of inclusion came crashing down in 2019 when a devastating fire severely damaged the refinery. Years later, SONARA remains in ruins, abandoned by the same state that once paraded it as a national pride. No concrete steps have been taken to revive or reconstruct it. Instead, the government has shifted its refining ambitions to Kribi, a city not in Ambazonia, but in French Cameroon, specifically in the south of French Cameroon. Kribi's selection is no coincidence. We see that its location within La République's territory marks a strategic redirection of economic infrastructure away from Ambazonian land, with the Kribi deep sea port already developed and operational. The city is fast becoming the new petro-industrial hub of the Republic, ironically powered by oil sourced from Ambazonia. This shift is not about technical convenience or strategic growth. It seems to be more about consolidating economic power in La République while continuing to plunder Ambazonian resources under the guise of national unity. The injustice deepens when one considers the daily reality faced by Ambazonians. Despite being the source of the very oil that fuels the Cameroons, they continue to pay the highest prices for refined products such as fuel and cooking gas. Crude is drawn from their own land, transported out, refined elsewhere, and sold back to them at premium rates, while citizens in La République enjoy subsidized access to the same refined fuels. It is a cruel irony that those who feed the economy are made to starve by it. This dynamic lays bare the real reason behind La République's refusal to grant Ambazonia its independence. We see greed in display. It is not about unity or shared destiny. It is about maintaining control over oil wells, timber, cocoa, maritime routes, and fertile lands. The Kribi Refinery project is merely the latest chapter in that calculated exploitation, and the timing could not be more transparent. With elections on the horizon, the Yaoundé regime is dusting off the same old promises, cutting ribbons and staging grand ceremonies to give the impression of progress. But for Ambazonians, it is a performance that they have seen one too many times before. SONARA, now a relic of broken promises, stands as a grim reminder of how easily the regime discards what it no longer needs. This new refinery is not a rebirth. It is a replacement. SONARA's ruins are not being restored because the regime has no intention of investing again in Ambazonian soil. That decision has been made. The resource will continue to come from Ambazonia, but the money, infrastructure, and development will now live in La République. It is a silent war, fought not with bullets, but with contracts and pipelines. Well, until Ambazonia is free, every refinery built in French Cameroon is a refinery stolen from its rightful place. SONARA is not just a facility in disrepair. It's not just a facility in disrepair, but a symbol of what was taken, what was lost, and what must be reclaimed. The Sea Star Refinery in Kribi does not represent a national dream. It represents a colonial scheme designed to secure power, control revenue, and sideline a people whose only crime is to sit on wealth they never are allowed to own. Ambazonians are not fooled. The charade may change faces, but the script remains the same, and so does the demand to refine Ambazonian oil on their own, for their own people. And until then, the pipeline that crisscrosses Ambazonian land are not arteries of national development. They are straws draining the life out of a nation that is fighting to be free. Now, Barrister Mbeseha, a lot seems to be at play here when it comes to this development, bringing up something like the SONARA, but in La République after SONARA has been destroyed. Now, given the strategic shift of refining infrastructure from SONARA in Ambazonia to Kribi in French Cameroon. Do you believe this is a deliberate act of economic colonization? And what does this action actually mean for Ambazonia's claim to self-determination? What does it mean for Ambazonia's claim to self-determination and control over its own national and natural resources? Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, if Ambazonians are fighting today and giving reasons for fighting, some people pretend not to understand. But just on SONARA alone, we should be reminded that of SONARA, that Ahijo abolished the so-called Federation in 1972. They abolished it to own the gas and oil that will be processed there. After the abolition in 1972, SONARA was constructed in 3 years into it. But talking about itself, what impact has SONARA got on Ambazonia for all the years that has existed since 1975? Almost zero impact economically. Because though it's based in Victoria, which is where we call Limpe, almost everybody who works there is Betty, is a Francophone. I don't know how many Bakwere people who own the soil even work there. I don't know how many are able to even just clean us in that place. And so they live there. It's a luxurious thing. A lot of money came from it, but they never even benefited us. Within SONARA itself, they had a school, I think even up to high school, exclusively reserved for them. Nobody could go to that school but the children of people working in SONARA, which is a French school. And who are these people working in SONARA? They are all Francophones, majority Betty and Lulus. And so they had that privilege. When we talk about firefight every day in Victoria, the only firefighting department in Victoria was found in SONARA, but was not put there to save the population, it was saved there to protect the industry, what they have there. And so economically, it has meant nothing to us. But that's not why it should be taken away. The reason why they take it away is completely different. SONARA, we are told, was burnt in 2019. It was burnt down. Was it an accident? I doubt. It looked like it was a deliberate destruction. Because ordinarily, the SONARA or such a structure should have been covered by insurance. In the accident that occurs, the insurance was supposed to cover it. But curiously and strange enough, among all the strange things in the world, they told us that there was no insurance to cover up that structure, that industry. There was no insurance. It was burned down in 2019. And so it has remained like that. To me, the only reason why the thing was banned in 2019 was that they saw this war coming. The war that was the peak of the war. And they realized that they were not going to succeed. They were going to leave Ambazonia. And they thought that they should destroy it before they leave, which is common in war. And so they destroyed it deliberately because they knew that Ambazonia would come to take over. They rather leave a carcass of the structure than to leave it functional. And so they deliberately destroyed it. They refused to rebuild it. They have had all estimates about it. But again, SONARA was not just SONARA. SONARA had byproducts of SONARA. Everything they processed there. But before I even go to everything they processed there, though that thing was standing there selling petrol and gas, the gas was more expensive in Victoria, where the SONARA is based, than in Douala. Why? Because though it was sitting there, it was deemed to be in to be in Douala. Its corporate headquarters is in Douala. If they never paid any taxes, they paid to Douala. So was Victoria benefiting from it? Nothing. And again, I said it is not just the oil. I remember there are a lot of things that go along with SONARA. I remember Mr. Paul Biya himself, who came to Buea, I think in the early 1990s. I was there. And what did he tell us? He spoke there, he stood there at Bongo Square. I was there. You know, somebody who reported to me. I was there. He made his speech and talked about SONARA. He praised SONARA, but he made a promise. He told the world at large that what everything is processed in the form of oil, they are byproducts, what they call the waste. That waste is what they use in making what they call tarring roads. It is described as bitumen. Obeya announced that he was going to make a bitumen factory in Victoria, which bitumen factory would use the waste from the SONARA, get it out for tarring roads, what they call Kota. They use it in tarring roads around the country, around the world, but Victoria would have benefited from it first. 1990 till today, 1990 till today is about 35, 40 years. The bitumen factory has never been built, but was not forgotten. If you see what's going on in Kribi right now, go read the master plan. The master plan includes building a bitumen factory to use the process, the waste from that new refinery to produce the same thing Pobia promised to Ambazonia, to southern Cameroon, to Buea in 1990. In that very 1990 visit, of course, he told us about SONARA. He equally told us about the deep sea port. They moved the deep sea port from Victoria to Kribi. They are now moving the SONARA, the oil refinery, from Victoria to Kribi. Is it an accident? No. These people have realized that they are losing the war. And therefore, whatever is processed from SONARA is so strategic, they better take it away from the area at risk. They better take it away from Ambazonia. But let us not be disturbed, because there is nothing. Not because it's not valuable now. They will pay damages for those things. At the appropriate time, they are going to be held accountable. That is oil. That is gathered, they are exporting. They cannot hide everything. Figures that go out, they will know them. They can pretend to hide them. But the statistics reveal, the undiscovered statistics are there. They will have to pay for this economic murder of Ambazonia. And so again, SONARA was the cause of the abolition of the so-called federation. Because they did not want southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, West Cameroon they called it at the time, to ever have any economic structure. They feared, in the first place, that if the federation remained, Ambazonia would own that oil. And so that is the story of SONARA. That is the trick behind it. And since the thing went, we were told by the former Director General, Mr. Asumo, he was called, he died, who made a public statement, publicly, that the accounts of oil coming from SONARA are best known only to the General Manager and the President. The money was never accounted in the budget of the country. They stole the money. We just knew, no, these are open thieves. They still would have even been ashamed. And so that is SONARA. That is the story behind SONARA. But the biggest story that we can tell about it as Ambazonians is, it has moved to Kribi. Did they do this thing in silence? No, they have done it publicly. But we have also our own brothers and people sitting up there, among them the Prime Minister, who came out boldly, publicly, to say that the story that they're building a refinery in Kribi to replace Victoria is a lie. That was impossible. He said this in Buea, standing out publicly. We don't know what he says now. They still consider himself of any worth. When they went to lay the foundation stone publicly, before him, what did he say? How does he reconcile this? A man of that standing in age, a man of that standing in education, a man of that standing in international diplomacy should be ashamed of himself. And if I were him, and a reasonable person in this place would simply resign from that post they call Prime Minister for making a ridicule of him. He had better kept quiet than to come out and say that the story was a lie. It has turned out they have shamed him by putting it out there just a few months after that, publicly, without any excuse. And so that's the story of SONARA. We hope and we pray that one day one will be compensated for that. Not for what they can go and be their own SONARA, their own refinery in Kribi if they want. But the truth is that they don't have any oil to refine there. Of all the oil fields that Cameroon has, I think 8 or 6 of them are all in Ambazonia. So what are they going to refine there? They have nothing there. If they have to refine, it will be oil stolen from there. We are already stealing. They pipe it through pipes under the ocean and take it to Kribi. But that will stop. That will stop. The international piracy will stop. Over to you.
Thank you, Barrister Mbeseha, for that wonderful in-depth analysis. Well, it is the electoral period in La République. The campaigns are on. And the Republic of Cameroon has once again descended into a familiar spectacle, a performance branded as democracy but dressed in confusion, fatigue, and calculated deceit. The deadline for presidential candidacy submission closed on July 21st, 2025, leaving La République to boast an astounding 82 files deposited for the upcoming elections, a record-breaking number not in quality, but in the glaring absurdity of what the process has become.
Yes, can be promised. First of all, I'm very happy the way Elecam has welcomed me here today. I received a warm welcome, which I've never experienced elsewhere. We show that electoral body of Cameroon, Elecam, is a structure that we can have confidence. I trust them and I trust what they can do. So I'm going on a presidential election. I'm declaring my candidature. And at the same time, I hand my 10,000 votes to President Paul Biya. Thank you. I don't know.
Which party are you representing, sir?
The Democratic Reconciliation of United Cameroon, la Réconciliation démocratique du Cameroun uni. RDCU, DRUC, Democratic Reconciliation of United Cameroon. And I've listened to the cry of all Cameroonians. I've listened to the cry of the youth. But going towards the election, I saw that the head of state was having my political ideology for this year. And for that reason, I've not wasted time to better give him my 10,000 votes. We line behind him and make sure that he continue responding to the aspiration of Cameroonians. Thank you.
Well, that and more images of many of the candidates have flooded the internet, igniting both bewilderment and disbelief across the nation. From elderly citizens barely able to stand to youths barely out of school, from visibly sick and frail individuals to some so modestly dressed it is hard to believe that they really are running for the highest office of any country. Cameroonians are asking, why is everything in this country never normal? What should be the most serious civic process of a sovereign state? The election of a president has become what many now call X Factor Cameroon, a talent show, a variety contest, a televised comedy that many suspect is not accidental, but deliberately staged by the regime that has ruled for over 4 decades. In a system where the incumbent has never truly been challenged, the presence of 81 candidates reeks not of democratic health, but of political manipulation. There is growing suspicion that many of these candidates are nothing more than state-sponsored actors, propped up to water down the legitimacy and impact of real contenders. By flooding the race with weak, unknown, and unserious aspirants, the regime ensures the field is cluttered, the votes divided, and the credibility of any strong opposition diluted before the contest even begins. It is not lost on the public that the only reason so many people, some of whom would never qualify in any functional democracy, feel bold enough to submit candidacy forms is because the bar has been lowered. The man currently occupying the presidency of La République is frail, aging, and barely present in the life of the nation. His prolonged rule, now stretching past 40 years, has encouraged many to believe that if he can sit there this long, why can I? Now, this isn't democracy. This political fatigue turned farce the kind that births desperation rather than determination, a chaotic jamboree paraded as a constitutional exercise, but one that Cameroonians themselves are no longer able to take seriously. Yet for Ambazonians, this is not their concern. The elections of La République du Cameroon have no bearing on the liberation, self-determination, or sovereignty of Ambazonia. They are simply a reminder of why the people of Southern Cameroon must remain focused and undistracted while Ambazonia bleeds. The children are denied education, towns militarized, and resources looted. Ambazonians cannot afford to be drawn into a colonial election theater that was never built for Ambazonians. Ambazonia has long exited that system, ideologically, politically, spiritually. The votes cast in Yaoundé do not echo in Boya. The destiny of Ambazonians cannot be shaped in a political environment that has for decades refused to acknowledge Ambazonians' right, identity, and even their voices. Now let the world witness the contradiction. A country that can gather 81 presidential hopefuls, but cannot ensure press freedom, judicial independence, or the basic protection of human rights. A regime so desperate to appear democratic that it has turned its own elections into a stage play where anyone can audition for it, not to lead, but to distract. Ambazonian leaders continue to warn Ambazonians to remain clear-eyed that this is not a Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian election, nor is it a moment for Ambazonians. The cause remains liberation and focus remains Boya, not Etude. Now, Barrister Mbeseha, this is quite interesting. With 81 candidacy files submitted, mainly clearly unserious or symbolic, do you believe this is a deliberate tactic by the regime to weaken credible oppositions in La République, as many suspect, or simply a reflection of a nation so disillusioned that anyone now feels qualified to lead with the state of the current president? What do you think it is, Barrister Mbeseha?
No, not everybody is qualified to lead. That's a misinterpretation of what they are doing. What they are doing, I think, I've not seen this in the world. I've not seen any country in the world, to the best of my knowledge, I'm quite old, which runs a presidential election with 80 candidates, 80 comedians. But I should really say it doesn't concern us. But if we comment on this, just to make fun, it's just a fun. It's just to relieve yourself of whatever pain you have. Because they have been saying something all the time, which I never really believe. They say in French, nothing is impossible in Cameroon. And so you don't see the whole thing that they're talking about. It's comedy, pure comedy. Look at that rascal who comes out there to say he's running for president. In his own words, he estimates to have 10,000 votes. Those are his own words. Which 10,000 votes? He has already given to Paul Biya. If you have already given your 10,000 votes to one of the candidates, is it worth the pain running again yourself? It's a comedy and it's staged. Because putting in his candidature required that you should have at least $30 million francs as deposit. See that rascal there, that man who does not seem even to have an underwear. Can that guy afford even 500,000? Talk less of even getting money to compile the file. If you truly put in a candidature, you must have put in a 30 million franc check or receipt from the treasury. That guy, where did he get the 30 million if he put anything at all? He's just one of the several gangsters playing the game there. But again, I've never seen this anywhere in the world. But again, they don't concern us. Again, Cameroonians, our neighbors, have the government they deserve. If they don't like that gangsterism going on with their country, they should rise up and change and get whatever thing they want as a rightful president. And I think they would. Because we're surprised that in November, Ambazonia is called to come and meet a rascal like that as the president of Cameroon to negotiate with us. But that would be wonderful if he's the winner. And so it's all a show. It's all manipulated, it's orchestrated, it has no meaning. From the top of the administration, from the to the palace, down to the quartier, to the off-licenses in Douala and Yaoundé. I saw somewhere last night, somebody wanted to put in his own candidature. There was nobody to sign his papers. They're all fled. He went to the governor's office, the man was not there. He went to the sous-prefect, they all escaped. Just to sit there and sign the man's papers, there was nobody even to sign it. And the man is there on Facebook crying out that this is my file here. These people refuse to sign. They are not there. They have taken permanent absence from the offices. Is this interesting? Yes, it is fun, really fun. Nobody should analyze it with any seriousness, but it is fun. I think it's time for us to relieve ourselves of the pain of locking our babies in prison and have a laugh a bit. Because, I don't know, their masters, France, they themselves should be ridiculed. They should be terribly embarrassed that these are people, the dead walking. That's what I can say about it. But whatever is the case, come October, one of those gangsters will find himself in the tree. Either one of them, or Pobia, or his skeleton, or his corpse will be there. That corpse, that skeleton, that rascal will find himself in the tree. In October, we'll have to sit down with us and negotiate an end to this struggle. That's what interests us. Nothing short of that. Over to you.
Mbeseha, still on that candidature list, we see presidential aspirant barrister Akere Muna, who returned today, greeted by a small group of enthusiastic youths who gathered to receive him as he made a symbolic walk through the streets of the capital. His return follows a week-long trip to the United States where he met with members of the Cameroonian diaspora to share his vision for the future of the La Republic. Let's take a listen to his call to people in the diaspora.
Brothers and friends of the DMZ area, I am on my way. I'm coming. Please, let's meet on Saturday. We will discuss, we will speak, we will talk about our country, we will plan our future. We will make sure the fact that you're American does not mean you're not Cameroonian. Let's meet. Let's join forces. Let's forge ahead. I'll be there. Be there for our country. Thank you.
Well, to many onlookers, it was a moment of political theater. Yet another familiar scene in a republic where elections often feel more like coronations or cleverly designed distractions than real instruments of change. But for the people of Ambazonia, Muna's return raised deeper, more painful questions, ones that cut through the applause, banners, and diplomatic rhetoric. Akere Muna is not just any politician. He is a son of Southern Cameroons, born of a lineage deeply tied to the regions, to Ambazonia's political history and the struggle for justice. His father, Solomon Tandeng Muna, once stood as a respected figure in the days when Southern Cameroon still had a voice within the union. But then today, that voice has been choked. That union shattered, and yet Akere Muna continues to participate in a political system that oppresses his own people. While he speaks eloquently about national unity and reform, Ambazonians cannot ignore the contradictions that a man of their own blood now seeks to lead a republic that has militarized their towns, displaced their families, and buried their youth in shallow graves. And more troubling still, he seeks their support to do it. Just days ago, Muna was in the United States rallying the diaspora to support his candidacy, as we just saw in that video. Yet to many Southern Cameroons, this effort would have meant more, far more, if it had been aimed not at Echudi, but at Boya. If that same energy had been directed at rallying the world to finally recognize Ambazonia's rights to self-determination, not another election under a system that has refused for decades to even acknowledge their humanity. There is no denying his intelligence, nor his long-standing role in governance and civil society. But then this is not about personal merit. It is about national betrayal. To campaign for the presidency of a nation that burns Ambazonian villages, imprisons her children, and siphons her resources is, to many, a rejection of the very people he was born from. Leadership to Ambazonians is not a matter of titles. It is a matter of loyalty to the cause of justice. And in this cause, many feel Akere has chosen comfort over courage. There was a time he was considered a beacon of integrity, but as he walks the governor's street, shaking hands and smiling for cameras, the streets of Mamfe, Kumbo, and Akona are drenched in silence, smoke, and blood. Ambazonians are not blind. They are watching and they are asking, what is the price of ambition when it comes at the expense of your people's freedom? What really is the price of ambition? His candidacy in this electoral circus, now boasting 81 presidential hopefuls, only adds to the confusion, while others are parading their audacity, some out of mockery and others out of fatigue. His participation cuts deeper because Ambazonians believe he should have known better, and in that knowledge they expect lies the betrayal Ambazonians feel about his involvement in the presidential elections. While Akere, a man with a platform, history, and pedigree, to have championed Ambazonian liberation on the world stage, has chosen instead to play a part in a colonial drama written by those who silence his homeland. His heartwarming welcome in Yaoundé may comfort him, but it leaves a bitter taste in the mouth of many Ambazonians. And for them, the path to freedom doesn't lie in the streets of Yaoundé. It lies in the bold walk towards sovereignty, a walk that no longer looks back to the republic that denied their existence. Barrister Mbeseha, considering Akere background as a Southern Cameroonian, how do you think his decision to participate in La Republique's elections is being received in Ambazonia, and does it risk being seen as a misalignment with the liberation movement?
No, nobody would ever, even the Yaoundé people, those in the corridors of power in Yaoundé, can never mistake him for an Ambazonian now. You know, he's not an Ambazonian. It is Ambazonians who are mistaking him for an Ambazonian. He's not an Ambazonian. He doesn't belong to us. We are trying to make him one of us. And so that is the problem. Yaoundé knows him very, very well. They're living Yaoundé almost all his life. I don't know how many nights he has ever spent in Gimbo, in Bengui there, where his father built a house. And so the Muna name is iconic in Cameroon politics. His father, I'm sure, was one of the 13 who withdrew from Enugu. His father, I'm sure, is one of those people who turned out at the end of the day, being the traitor, the black leg number one, who is partly responsible for what we're going through. But we're not asking him to pay for the sins of his father. We're asking him to depend on his own records. This gentleman he's a lawyer, very powerful lawyer. He's known, his most popular thing is fighting corruption, fighting Glencore. What is Glencore? It's the money they stole from SONARA, we just talked a few minutes ago, and kept it in foreign banks. To him, it was a bad thing. It is a bad thing he's caused it. He struggled to prosecute the criminals. But he has never, even a moment, tried to say that the stealing of the oil from Dian, without even an inch of road there, is also theft. He has never pointed that out. I don't remember at any time in his life, especially the last 5, 6, 7 years, ever saying that the struggle we're fighting is legitimate. No. If he's running for president, so be it. That's not the first time. That is his second time. He was a candidate in 2018. He was running in 2018. He paid the 30 million, but at the last minute, he purported to withdraw the support come to. And so, that is it. We expect anything to come from him. Not anything can come out of him, but not in our interests. Because his history shows that he has never done anything in our own interest. As I've said, I don't know how many nights he has ever spent in Gimbo, which is in Bengui, where their father built a house. I don't know where he has even heard there. His father remained in power, manipulated everything, but did not even as much as dig a road 20 kilometers from Bamenda to Bengui. Like father, like son, we don't expect anything from him. But again, he's not one of us. who are trying to force him to be one of us. And so he launches his campaign. He comes to the United States diaspora. Let us make the DMV area, that is Maryland, Washington area. How many voters are there? Can he go and make his own campaign in Benue, his own division of origin? Not even to talk about Bamenda. He will not, because that's not his interest. He's a man powerful, he's a lawyer, he has more than enough money. But as far as we are concerned, he has not shown any interest, any reasonable interest in what he can do to help us. Those three sentences he made there, let us go there and discuss the future. He did not outline, he did not tell us what was his future. If he had to give a press conference, he's a presidential candidate. He's selling himself to the world. He should be able to say a few things more than that. Just coming to listen to him. If you don't go, you never listen to him. Now we heard him say that. Were more than the people who attended his whatever thing he heard in Maryland there. And so it's a joke. He's free to do what he likes. He's just one of the 81 candidates running. I'll be very, very surprised if he were ever to win. But even if he won, so be it. We'll know that we're meeting him in after October to negotiate the end of the struggle. Might be with his roots, the roots of his father and his mother, rooted somewhere in Benue, somewhere in Ambazonia. Might be he'll be more flexible on that negotiation table. But until then, we wish him good luck. He's not fighting for us. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Barrister Mbeseha, for all of your contribution this day on Undaunted. It's been really insightful, and we hope to get you more on Undaunted, but with that, we have to call it a close with you. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next will be news around Africa. On the African scene, the military training jet crashed into Milestone School and College in the Ouattara area of Dakar on Monday, killing at least 27 people, including students, a teacher, and the pilot, and injuring dozens more in what authorities are calling the deadliest air disaster in the capital's recent history. The crash occurred around 10:12 a.m. local time when an F-7 BGF fighter jet, a Chinese-made aircraft used by the Bangladesh Air Force BAF for training missions, suffered a critical technical malfunction. Shortly after takeoff from Kurmitola Air Base, located just a few kilometers away, the pilot, Flight Lieutenant Tuki Islam, a 26-year-old graduate of the BAF Academy, was on his first solo training flight. According to a preliminary military statement, Islam attempted to steer the malfunctioning jet away from densely populated areas. Witness said the aircraft appeared to be circling, losing altitude before nosediving into the school's main administrative building. He could have ejected, but he stayed with the plane, likely trying to avoid hitting the nearby market, said a BAF official, requesting anonymity pending an investigation. He is being hailed as a hero. Lieutenant Islam died on impact. The crash triggered a massive fire that engulfed large sections of the campus. The explosion flattened parts of the school's main academic block, where morning classes had just begun. Rescue workers described a horrific scene of debris, smokes, and screams. At least 170 people were rescued from the building, including children as young as 6. Many suffered severe burns and smoke inhalation. Of those, 78 remain hospitalized, several in critical condition. Hospital officials said some victims were burned beyond recognition, complicating identification efforts. We're in a state of shock, said Principal Farida Nasrin, who sustained minor injuries during the evacuation. We have lost students, colleagues, and our sense of safety. Heart-wrenching scenes unfolded at nearby hospitals and morgues as families rushed to identify loved ones. Several parents collapsed upon receiving news of their children's death. One mother, Shahana Ahmed, sobbed uncontrollably outside Utara General Hospital. Her 12-year-old daughter, Sumaya, was in class when the jet struck. I packed her lunch this morning. She waved goodbye. I never thought it would be the last time, she said. Well, firefighters, emergency crews, and members of the Bangladesh Army worked for hours to extinguish the flames and search through the wreckage. The area remains cordoned off as military investigators and aviation experts begin an inquiry into the cause of the malfunction. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina expressed deep condolences and called for a full investigation. This is a national tragedy. Every life lost is a wound to our hearts, she said in a televised address, saying they will ensure that such a disaster never happened again. The government has declared Tuesday a national day of mourning. Flags will fly at half-mast and special prayers will be held across schools and mosques. The F-7BGI, a derivative of the Chinese Chengdu J-7 itself, modeled after the Soviet MiG-21, has been in use by the Bangladesh Air Force BAF since 2013. Though relatively modernized, the aircraft has been involved in at least 3 other non-fatal incidents in recent years, raising concerns about its reliability and safety. Defense analysts say Monday's crash could intensify scrutiny over the BAF's training protocols and aircraft maintenance. As the sun sets over Dhaka, hundreds gathered for a candlelight vigil outside the school's gate, laid flowers and photos of the victims. Social media was flooded with tributes while citizens questioned how a routine training flight could end in such devastation. Classes at Milestone School and College have been suspended indefinitely. Counseling services are being arranged for survivors and bereaved families. This is not just a school tragedy, said Education Minister Deepu Moni. She said it is a national trauma, and we must come together to grieve, to support one another, and to demand accountability. And that was it on the African scene, but coming up next will be news across the globe. Several French cities have imposed nighttime curfews on minors in response to a wave of violence connected to drug trafficking, as concerns rise over the growing exploitation of young people by criminal gangs. Now, Nimes in southern France is the latest city to adopt the measures restricting movement of those under 16 between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. Authorities stated that move could aim to shield minors from exposure to violence and prevent further escalation of tensions. Additionally, police reinforcements are expected to be deployed. The decision follows a series of violent incidents in Nimes, including multiple shootings in recent weeks, one in broad daylight that left one person dead and several injured. The burned body of a 19-year-old man was also discovered on the city's outskirts last week, further heightening public alarms. Mbeseha, located roughly 120 kilometers southwest, has already implemented a similar curfew for children under 13 in 2024, later extending it to include minors under 15 in some areas. Despite these efforts, violence has persisted. Over the weekend, masked youth reportedly lured police officers and assaulted them with fireworks. Limoges, another southwestern city, introduced summer curfews for those under 13. However, a violent episode involving approximately 100 people has raised doubts about the effectiveness of such measures, and local officials argue that without proper enforcement, curfews alone are insufficient. In Nimes, a 10-year-old boy was fatally shot in 2023, sparking national outrage and intensifying calls for stronger intervention to curb gang activity. The rise in violence reflects a broader trend of drug-related crimes spreading beyond Marseille, France's long-standing epicenter of gang conflict. According to the Interior Ministry, Drug-related violence claimed 110 lives and injured over 300 individuals in 2024 alone. In response, the French government has ramped up its anti-narcotics strategy. This includes new legislation authorizing maximum security prisons for drug kingpins, expanded prosecutorial power, dedicated informant protection, and increased law enforcement capacity. 17 high-profile traffickers have recently been transferred to a high-security facility in Vendin-les-Villes in northern France. Meanwhile, recent arson and gun attacks targeting prisons are believed to be retaliatory acts by drug syndicates pushing back against the crackdown. Well, still on the global scene, police in Pakistan have arrested 14 individuals after a disturbing video surfaced online, showing the apparent honor killing of a couple accused of having an extramarital affair. The footage, which quickly went viral, captures more than a dozen men gathered in a remote desert area of Balochistan. In the video, a woman, her head wrapped in a shawl, is seen walking in front of a vehicle while being followed by a man under the watch of the group. Moments later, a man raised the gun and shot the woman 3 times at close range. She collapsed after the final shot. Additionally, gunshots are heard, followed by scenes of a bloodied man lying near the woman's body. The group is later seen continuing to shoot at both victims. Authorities have not confirmed the precise location or timing of the incident. The identities of the victims also remain unverified, and Sky News has not independently confirmed the video's origin. However, the footage has triggered widespread outrage and renewed calls for accountability and justice. Balochistan's provincial chief minister, Sarfraz Bukti, stated during a press conference that the victims had allegedly been involved in a relationship outside of marriage. Initial reports suggested the killings may have been linked to the couple marrying against their family's wishes. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, HRCP, reported that at least 405 so-called honor killings occurred in the country in 2024, with the majority of victims being women. This latest case underscores growing concerns about gender-based violence and extrajudicial punishments in conservative regions of Pakistan. Human rights advocates continue to urge the government to enforce stronger protections for vulnerable individuals, particularly women, in areas where tribal or customary law often overrides national legislation. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted. Before we go, let's take a look at the major highlights. On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you the lockdown solidarity holding as colonial forces deploy misinformation, but an Ambazonian community stand firm. From SONARA's ashes to Kribi's Mirage, we see another election, another refinery scam as Ambazonia's oil feeds the colonial empire. We also brought to you Cameroonians. Presidential race or political circus is something we wondered, with 81 candidates and still no real contest. Akere has returned, a warm welcome in Yaoundé, but a cold reminder in Ambazonia. And on the African news, we saw tragedy striking Dakar with military jet crashing at Milestone School and killing 27, with dozens injured. And on the news across the globe, we saw French cities enforcing youth curfews amid surge in drug-linked violence. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted, we say thank you for tuning in. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.